I had received an email that the council president forwarded me where there was a resident in town who had forwarded, Mr. Casey had talked about the potential for stipends for board, committee, and commission members. And it was a good email, and it outlined a couple of different ideas. And I'm at the point in the budget where if we were going to potentially do this, I would do this at this point and be able to put it into the final budget for your consideration, right? So as our process evolves and we're going through it, I think there's a compelling case that you could hear the potential for stipends for our board, committee, and commission members. This does not include, at this point, the town council because there is a charter limitation on that, right? And this is not just a proposal for a reconsideration of past practice, but really a reflection of, how we value civic engagement and civic duty. So with your indulgence, Mr. Casey is here this evening and could make that presentation a few minutes of the time as a part of the town manager's report and talk to you about his impressions and viewpoints on stipends.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. Yeah, a few minutes. Mr. Casey, if you have it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Huh?
So thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you, Town Manager Borg, for your kind words. So let me give, as Town Manager Borg mentioned, I'm here to talk to you about stipends for both elected and appointed boards. And let me give you a little my historical perspective, because I was pretty involved with the removal of stipends and the Charter Commission and so on and so forth. So approximately 10 years ago, when I was in the Finance Committee, the financial position of the town was very difficult. We're basically rubbing pennies together to make pennies. I mean, much more dire than where we are right now. Every town department had a deficit, and we're just trying to figure out how we're going to be able to get through this. So through this process, the school department came before the Finance Committee and said, "Hey, listen, we've cut to the bone. We can't cut anywhere else. We're going to have to make XYZ cuts." And one of them was doing away with school crossing guards for the kids. And we had a lot of debate on that and kind of saying, $50, $60 million budget, you got to cut. We're only talking $40,000 or $60,000. You're cutting school crossing guards. And this is what we got to do. And I think it was somewhat of a political maneuver on their part, in my opinion, probably effective. And someone in the Finance Committee said, well, if we cut stipends out for all the elected boards, then we could fund crossing guards. We're talking $40,000 or $60,000. It's only going to be a one-year thing, maybe 2 years at most. When things get better, we'll revisit it and we'll put stipends back in. So for a couple of years later, I'm not sure how many of you guys were involved back then. I know Justin, we were on Finance Committee together for a number of years where things were not the situation was not very good. But they never got reinstated. And so when I was on I was also a member of the Charter Commission, and it came up in discussion, and we had numerous discussions about stipends for boards and whatnot in town. We had a table discussion, go back to it a couple of different times, and we kind of compromised in the charter. I think it was felt that with the charter, we really wanted to come across as being expense neutral. And by adding stipends in, we were going against that philosophy. So what we compromised on was what's in the charter right now, where the town council has the ability, with I think it's a 2/3 vote, Town Manager Borg, to reinstate stipends for everyone except for itself, because I think the majority of the Charter Commission felt that having a board kind of vote to put stipends in themselves probably wasn't a good idea, so that was left out. And that was a compromise, and here we are, 10 years later. And there's also several other mechanisms where, say, if the town council was to decide, stipends would be a good thing, which I think is well-deserved for all the time you guys put in. But there are certain mechanisms to try to get that done. So here we are 10 years later. And so why am I pursuing this? I think it's the right thing to do. As I said, 10 years ago, it was only supposed to be temporary. And if we don't do something soon, I think everyone's going to forget that. I don't think many people left around that remember that. Some of us are, but as time goes on, people change, roles change, and people forget. And I suspect, I don't know for certain, but I think by having some sort of stipend, it will put us back on par with some other surrounding communities. Although actual data is needed to confirm this. I thought about doing it myself. I looked around on some websites, couldn't find anything, but I know, Town Manager Borg or say a committee or someone more formally could probably come up with the data. I don't know if we have that or not, but it'd be great to have. And I think a small stipend is both a symbolic gesture from the town and a thank you for the generous time that people give on boards and committees just like yourself to help make this town a great place to live. And really appreciate all your efforts and all the committee efforts. And currently I'm on the Town Electric Commission, and after the Charter Commission, I signed up for that. My term is coming due in April, and I did not re-up to run for anything this April. And I kind of felt uncomfortable, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, the way things went down, and it never got reinstated. I have no skin in the game. So if someone can't come back to me and say, hey, you voted for a raise for yourself, well, I'm not doing that. And that's why, another reason why I'm presenting this to you right now. And also, I think I may attract more people to volunteer on boards and committees, although this shouldn't be the primary reason for doing so. It's I suspect many people will refuse to accept the stipend, perhaps. I don't know. But it is just a small thank you. And I don't know, some of the committees like the Board of Assessors, I know from my time, they have to get training, certification. A lot of time goes into that. And then right now, they're not getting anything for that. Just one example of where I think it would be fair to maybe do something. And I'm asking the town council if you could do a thorough and kind of well thought out and comprehensive review of the matter. It's pretty tough right now. The budget's coming. It's close to being due. I'd rather not be. I think it's been discussed in the past. I'd rather not. But I'm not sure how well it had been vetted. At a minimum, I think we should benchmark some data from surrounding communities. As I mentioned, maybe Town Manager Borg can help with this. And we should also probably solicit citizen input, and if needed, obtain town council's opinion on how best to proceed, given the nuances of the charter. I think it would be easy to do a quick drive-by on this and say, hey, we looked at it, and maybe that's happened in the past, but I really think we need to take a close look at it, and hopefully you guys will support doing that and give it the utmost consideration. So thanks for the time. I'd be happy to help out in any way going forward with this, and present for the board, do some work, some of the grunt work. Be happy to do that, but if you guys have any questions at all, I'd be happy to.
John, I wanted to thank you for coming in. I always enjoyed our time together when we worked together on the Finance Committee back in those bad old days, for sure. And say even when I first got involved, that was right after that decision came down.
Right. The
Stipends were never in place. And I always kind of scratched my head at that one personally.
Yeah, it never sat well with me. It still doesn't. So that's why I'm here today. But
I also, I'm sorry to hear you're not coming back on the Electric Commission. However, maybe that opens the door for some other opportunities for you to get more involved here on the town side. So
well, you did appoint me to the Economic Growth and Sustainability Commission, I think, or board, or whatever, which is wonderful.
We'll be in touch, though, because there might be some other opportunities. We shouldn't talk too much about it. Does anybody have anything they want to add?
I think before we get the budget, before we head too far down that road, I don't know if you think Finance Committee is the appropriate place to start this, but we have talked about it in the past and kind of just done a flyover of it without really looking at it, just saying this isn't the time, this isn't the time. But I was on RTM at that time. I voted
you remember probably, right?
For the temporary suspension of stipends, much like temporary tolls and sales taxes. Those things often aren't temporary, but I do think that it's owed to at least have a full-throated discussion about it. So I would be happy to make a motion to send that idea to the Finance Subcommittee for further review.
Second.
All right, I got a motion on that, referring the topic for discussion to the Finance Subcommittee. For Mr. Simmons, a second. For Mr. Donovan, any discussion on the motion?
Just curious what boards this would apply to and what the amount is that they were paid?
We can work with the treasurer and the accountant on the previous amounts that were paid before when they were in existence, right? And then we would do our due diligence. If there's a motion and this is a successful vote here, we would take that up and I would bring in data before the Finance Committee and then work this into the budget.
Yeah, I mean, I look quick, I think it was around 45,000 last time, but, times have changed, positions have changed,
And I
roles
think
have
that,
changed.
Some of the considerations. we have to
Inflation, all
look at
kinds of
is
stuff,
The frequency
so.
that some boards meet, like Board of Assessors meets weekly. Some boards don't meet but quarterly, like the Town Forest Committee, right? So we'd have to take a look at all of that. And I think we're in a position that we've looked at this and we're now able to probably bring something, and that's why.
Sure, yeah, I support talking about it, sure.
I think that would be part of the recommendation of the Finance Committee, if they were to
Absolutely.
recommend them or not. Like, A, do you recommend the reinstitution of stipends, and B, which boards and committees are going to get them, how much? Like, what was the logic behind it? That would be the expectation of what you guys would bring back to council. And I think it does make sense as part of the budget discussion. This would be the time of year to actually have that conversation.
Great. I did just one more comment. Manager Borg, I read somewhere with some of the new hires in town that, North Attleboro wants to continue to be a great place for people to work and an attractive place for people in municipal government to work. And I feel like not only for the town government employees, but for board members also should feel like, hey, this is a great place to contribute my time, my energy, and I'm appreciated. So.
All right, I have a motion and a
Thank you.
second. Is there any further discussion on the referral to Finance Committee? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? That motion passes 8-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you coming in.